And warm welcome to everyone to this webinar on the e-waste amendment proposal by Ghana and Switzerland. My name is Michel Chiren. I work for the Swiss government for the Environment Ministry, and I'm happy to welcome you all to today's event to discuss the Basel Amendment proposal on e-waste. We believe it's a good opportunity today, after a series of webinars already held, to welcome also colleagues from the VIII region that are interested to hear about the proposal and to discuss it, as well as colleagues from other regions that might also join today. As you know, e-waste is a major problem for the environment and people's health. Every year, about 50 million tons of e-waste are generated, and of this, only about 20% is documented to have been disposed of properly. And the amount of waste is on the rise, and more people need electronic devices, and the useful life of the devices is getting shorter. So huge masses of e-waste end up in unsound treatment and burden the environment and human health. And this situation, of course, must change. Part of the problem, we think, is that the international trade of e-waste is not controlled enough. Several countries, including Switzerland, have ratified and apply the ban amendment, prohibiting exports of hazardous e-waste from parties and other states which are members of the OECD, the EC, and Liechtenstein, but this does not apply to all countries. In addition, used electrical and electronic equipment moved transboundary are often declared as recyclable goods, although in reality they are more likely to be e-waste. With this situation, the governments of Ghana and Switzerland have developed a joint proposal to expand the Basel Convention so that in the future, not only the export of hazardous e-waste is controlled, but the export of all e-waste. The main reasoning for this proposal is that unsound treatment of e-waste, no matter whether it's characterized as hazardous or not, burdens the environment and harms human health when not treated environmentally sound. The amendment proposal of Ghana and Switzerland is contributing to solving the e-waste problem. It will help developing countries prevent unwanted imports, increase the proportion of properly disposed e-waste, and therefore help to protect human health and the environment. But it also helps to level the playing field and promote good recycling facilities. All e-waste should reach environmentally sound management with state-of-the-art technology, because then this will result in a maximum of resource recovery. We are aware that there are questions on the proposal that need to be discussed and clarified. We think that this is a doable task, and by no means open question should stand in the way of acknowledging the global e-waste problem on the political level and making a crucial step towards a better situation by adopting this proposal. So thanks again for having joined this webinar. We are very much looking forward to the discussion today. We have several colleagues on the call that will be involved in the discussion, knowing well the proposal. And I am first of all now delighted to hand over to my colleague from Ghana for his part of the introduction. Before doing that, though, I would like to thank the BR Secretariat very much for helping to organize this webinar today. And also, if I understood correctly, this webinar is being recorded so that people that were not able to join can then listen to the recording later on. And we would like to make you aware of this. Thanks again on behalf of the Swiss government for being here, and I'm handing this over to you, Sam, for your part of the introduction, and then we can, you will be able to hand over for the presentation of the proposal, and we will then also have a question-answer session so that everyone in the webinar can be involved. So I hope this works and you can hear me, Sam. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michelle. Can you also hear me?
I confirm I can hear you well, Sam.
Thank you so much, Michelle, once again. And good afternoon, colleagues around the world, especially those of you in the Western European and other group work. And I also like to thank you very much for the opportunity to join forces with my colleagues from Switzerland to present this amendment proposal from Ghana, Switzerland. So once again, my name is Sam Edukumi. I work with the Ghana Environmental Protection Agency under the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation. I'm the national focal person for the Basel, Rotterdam, Stockholm, and the Minamata Convention, also PIC. So just to add a few remarks to what my colleague Michelle has said, I mean, the situation in Africa, most of us are aware that is very serious. In fact, improper and illegal waste electrical and electronic equipment, or what we call e-waste trafficking, is prevalent here in Ghana, in Africa in general, and in most of our developing economies. Respect of whether or not national e-waste legislation exists, I mean, the situation is serious. Consumers, I'm talking about people who, all of us who are, I mean, into this e-waste, and also importers, particularly those who bring the materials from the EU and other countries from the East and other places, dismantlers and recyclers. They are often guilty of illegal dumping, particularly of open dumping, where non-functional parts and residues from dismantling and treatment operations, such as open burning or acid baths, are released into the environment, which eventually affects human health. So the hazardousness in e-waste actually include lead and mercury in screens, in batteries and lamps, as well as even ozone depleting substances, chlorofluorocarbons in electrical equipment, which contribute to climate issues as well. So whether the raw materials are recycled or the hazardous substances lead to actual harmful emissions will largely depend on their collection and treatment methods. And therefore, when we talk about the environmental sound management of these e-waste is so important. That is why, to me, our proposal to ensure that all the waste, electronic and electrical equipment that are coming to our regions are monitored. So on that note, I would like to also hand over to my colleague, Marco Butzin, and then Isabel, both from Switzerland, to maybe continue from there to do the presentation. So Marco or Isabel, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. So good afternoon to everybody. We are very happy that we can present you the Swiss and Ghana proposal. I will begin with the presentation, and then my colleague Marco will lead to the second part of the presentation. So as first, I would like to present you the proposal in short, and then give you some background information and the reasoning for the proposal. After this, we can have a detailed look at the newly proposed classification of electronic waste and how it fits to the ongoing work on the expert working group and on annexes of the Basel Convention. In addition, we will go through some frequently asked questions that we have received. And finally, we will give you an outlook about our planned next steps. And of course, we will be very happy to hear your questions and comments at the end. So Ghana and Switzerland have forwarded an official amendment proposal in January 21 concerning the classification of electronic waste for discussion and possible adoption at COP15. The amendment proposal was officially submitted to the convention in December 2020. I would like now to give you an overview of the proposal in a schematic way. So on the right and on the left, you have the situation today. So today, only e-waste characterized as hazardous under the Basel Convention are subject to the PIC-procedure. In case of exports from OECD countries to non-OECD countries, the ban amendment applies. Today, transboundary movement of electronic waste that are not characterized as hazardous take place without any notification, and thus there is no insurance that this waste will be treated in an environmentally sound manner. With the amendment proposal of Ghana and Switzerland, the situation for electronic waste characterized as hazardous under the Basel Convention will remain exactly the same as today. You can see it on the right side. And what is new with our proposal is that electronic waste not characterized as hazardous and currently listed on Annex IX would be moved to Annex II, categories of waste requiring special consideration. So as a consequence, planned transboundary movement of electronic waste not characterized as hazardous would also be subject to the PIC-procedure. This means that the export, transit, and most important import countries must give their consent to such movement. This will result in transparency and should ensure environmentally sound recovery with state-of-the-art treatment for all e-waste that are subject to transboundary movement. Now I would like to give you to present you the proposal in a short also, but with words this time. So Ghana and Switzerland propose a new entry on Annex II, categories of waste requiring special consideration for non-hazardous waste, electrical and electronic equipment, its components and constituents. In addition, or as a consequence, it is proposed also to delete the entry B1110 and B4030 on Annex 9 regarding electronic waste, since these both entries would also be captured by the new entry Y49 in Annex 2. Entry A1118 for electronic waste characterized as hazardous under the Convention would be rewarded as a mirror entry of Y49. So the main consequence of the proposal would be a mandatory PIC procedure for transboundary movement of all electronic waste. Now I propose you to have a look at the e-waste situation today to understand better the background of the proposal. My colleagues Sam and Michel already said some points, but I will also add something. So recovery of electronic waste is very sensible and ecologically worthwhile, and e-waste management and managed and treated in an environmentally sound manner leads also to a better recovery of valuable materials. Unfortunately, this is not the case worldwide. Electronic waste, whether classified as hazardous or non-hazardous, if not treated with state-of-the-art technology, can harm human health and burden the environment. The UNU Global E-Waste Monitor published last year estimates that only around 18% of the electronic waste generated worldwide is collected and treated in an environmentally sound manner. So the fate of more than 80% of the generated e-waste is undocumented. Another finding of this report is that the available recycling capacity is not keeping pace with the global growth of electronic waste. This leads to the conclusion that huge masses of electronic waste are not managed in an environmentally sound manner and not directed to state-of-the-art technology. This is valid for domestically treated electronic waste, but also for electronic waste moved transboundary. So what are the impacts of unsound e-waste treatment? As you already probably know, electronic waste that are not treated in a environmentally sound manner generates a lot of impacts to the environment, burden to air, water, and soil. There is also a loss of resources. It also generates impact to human health through the inhalation of incineration, residues, and ashes, through the absorption of heavy metals, and through accidents because of unprotected workers. It also generates challenges for developing countries, as uncontrolled import of e-waste are often directed to vulnerable countries. And in these countries, often there is not the necessary treatment structure. So it also generates lots of social problems. If we look at the figures and some facts, so according to the Global E-Waste Monitor, more than 50 million tons of electronic waste were produced in 2019. So we expect huge volume of electronic waste in the coming years. The estimation for 2030 are by 74 million tons of electronic waste, which is equivalent to nearly 4,400 Eiffel Towers per year. So it is a fact that electronic waste is one of the fastest growing waste streams. Worldwide, the production of electronic equipment is strongly growing every year, and the rates lies between 3 and 5%. This is specifically valid for consumer electronics. So the reason for this is clear. There is a growing demand of electric equipment, and the continuing development of new products leads to this growing demand. In addition, the lifespan of many electronic equipments become always shorter, and therefore triggers the demand and the amount of electronic waste generated. So what about transboundary movement of electronic waste? So in the literature, there were not much data available on transboundary movement of electronic waste from a global view. But the UNU report of 2020 estimates that between 7 and 20% of electronic waste or second-hand products are moved transboundary. So this results in a potential of around 4 to 11 million metric tons yearly. So knowing that more than 80% of the fate of electronic waste is not known, it leads to the conclusion that the urgency of directing all e-waste to environmentally sound management becomes more and more immediate. As I mentioned before, electronic waste has also valuable materials. The UNU report estimates that the intrinsic raw materials value of the worldwide electronic waste is about 57 billion US dollars, mainly gold, copper, and plastic. As we saw earlier, less than 20% of electronic waste are documented. So if we presume that this 20% is directed to state-of-the-art recycling technology, one can imagine the huge amount of value and resources that are lost per year with the 80% of left. So the next goal is to avoid huge losses of valuable resources. So as a first conclusion, with the amendment proposal, Ghana and Switzerland are heading for the goal of directing all e-waste that are subject to transboundary movement to environmentally sound management, to recycling with state-of-the-art technology, and to a maximum of resource recovery and an environmentally sound final disposal of non-recoverable material. Aiming for this goal means that applying the PIC procedure to all e-waste is a prerequisite for the assurance of environmentally sound management of all such categories of wastes. Before I give the floor to my colleague Marco, I would like to look with you to the benefits. So the proposal strengthens the transparency. The monitoring of all e-waste that are moved transboundary is easier. It protects vulnerable countries from unwanted imports. The proposal results in a better protection of the environment and human health. It also ensures state-of-the-art recovery for all e-waste. Further, the proposal increases the sustainability of the whole recycling chain with a more valuable recovery and contributes to circular economy. So now I would like to give the floor to my colleague Marco for the second part.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. My name is Marco Buletti, and I will guide you through the second part of this presentation, and we will have a little bit of more detailed look at the proposal as a whole. If we look at the principle of the amendment proposal, you see the situation on the left hand, how it is today. We have the Annex 8, oh, it's wrongly written now, see, Annex 8 with a hazardous e-waste. And this entry A11.8 that we have for hazardous e-waste would remain the same. On Annex 9, currently we have two entries for e-waste not characterized as hazardous. There, the intention is that we move this entry to Annex II and would have it there as a new entry Y49. We would, of course, then delete both entry on Annex 9. And what is very important to know that we would make mirror entries for Annex 8 and 2 so that nothing, no waste could fall between the cracks. Everything would be covered. I have included in our presentation the wording that we proposed for the new waste entries. I will not go through it in detail. I did this that you have a complete set of the amendment proposal since you will receive the presentation. But what is important to say here is when we will come later to the work of the expert working group on annexes, I can remind you that we tried to be close to that what this expert working group was already working on. So here's the exact wording of Y49. This would be the new wording of the hazardous e-waste on list A 1180. And finally, we would delete two entries in Annex 9 of the convention. There's only few things to say. B1110 is quite clearly, this is the general entry for e-waste not characterized as hazardous, but we also propose to delete entry B4030. This is a, let's say, quite old entry for single-use cameras with batteries not included on list A. This is a waste stream that today more or less doesn't exist anymore, and it wouldn't make sense to keep this entry as a special entry in all of the risks, and everything would be, of course, captured by the new entry Y49. By a composition, the mandate of the expert working group on the review of Annexes 1, 3, and 4 of the Basel Convention was extended. It was extended to also review the e-waste entries B1110 and A1180. So for waste characterized as hazardous and as non-hazardous. And the goal of this work is to make a recommendation for the COP for a wording, for a new wording of the e-waste entries, which mainly makes a better and clear distinction between these both types of e-waste, either hazardous and non. This work of the expert working group fits very well in the intention of the amendment proposal of Ghana and Switzerland, which proposes to list non-hazardous e-waste on Annex II of the convention. The annex is called for categories of waste requiring special consideration. The reasoning is that e-waste not treated appropriate with state-of-the-art technology burdens the environment and human health, and it really doesn't matter whether the e-waste in question is characterized as hazardous or not. Having said all this, it's clear that the expert working group does not have a mandate to discuss the amendment proposal itself. On the other hand, it should also be mentioned that the expert working group can only provide recommendations to the COP, but cannot make proposals to amend the annexes to the convention. Only parties can propose such changes. Without a party that is willing to use the recommendation and make a formal proposal to amend the entries, the work of the expert working group cannot be implemented. The Ghanaian-Swiss proposal for amending Annex II of the Basel Convention picked up proposed language developed by the expert working group at the time the proposal was put forward to the parties. And we, Ghana and Switzerland, we intend to adjust the wording of the e-waste entries in our proposal to the wording developed or hopefully even agreed by the expert working group. This 14th January, the expert working group had a meeting where the wording of both e-waste entries A1180 and B1110 was further discussed. At this meeting, the expert working group agreed to 5 basic characteristics which the listing of both e-waste entries should follow. The WEEE entries should include the whole equipment. It should include components and processed fractions. The second principle is that the entries on list A and B should be mirror entries to ensure that nothing falls between the cracks. The text should contain examples to give guidance. And regarding components, they discussed that it should cover both components that are always hazardous, as well as components that may or may not be hazardous. And then finally, the last conclusion the expert working group was making is that it should provide indications about materials not covered by the entry. We welcome very much the agreement to use these basic lines. They all fit in very well in our amendment proposal. However, there's no final agreement yet in the expert working group on how to draft the wording of the entries that would fully incorporate all these mentioned characteristics. So we are looking forward and will certainly contribute to further work for developing the concrete wording for the e-waste entries. Concerning concretely the amendment proposal of Ghana and Switzerland, we intend picking up wording prepared by the expert working group, and this is the addition, move the reworded entry B1110 on Annex 9 to Annex 2 as a new entry Y49. Here you see a short summary of the goals, the benefits, and the implications of our amendment proposal. With a listing of e-waste and its components and constituents not classified as hazardous on Annex II of the Basel Convention, there will be no further discussion whether planned TBMs of e-waste and its components and constituents, be they classified as non-hazardous or as hazardous, must be notified or not. The PIC procedure will apply to all transboundary movements of e-waste, its components and constituents. And with the classification of non-hazardous e-waste and its components and constituents, the tracking and monitoring of TBMs of all VE will be possible. The formalization of monitoring will certainly assist countries to better ensure ESM of these wastes and develop the necessary and adequate ESM treatment recycling capacities, and thus ensure proper protection of human health and the environment from burdens caused by e-waste. Of course, there will also be regional solutions. And applying the required state-of-the-art technologies will ensure clearly higher recovery rates of the intrinsic value of waste electrical and electronic equipment and its components and its constituents. The PIC procedure will also allow countries to better assist and integrate their informal e-waste sector and ensure proper protection of human health and the environment from VE burdens. And with the classification of non-hazardous e-waste on Annex II of the Basel Convention and the introduction of the PIC procedure for all e-waste, the situation for importers and exporters will be much clearer. This will contribute to legal clarity, and enforcement will be facilitated, and this will hopefully contribute to a reduction of illegal trade. And finally, with the new proposed classification, the ban amendment as it stays today for hazardous e-waste will still apply. In addition, national or regional import bans for hazardous waste, such as, for instance, in the Bamako Convention, will also still apply. So exports of non-hazardous e-waste to countries that have not banned the import would still be possible, but they would have to follow the PIC procedure. So we see the proposal as a contribution as a whole to circular economy. It will help to create jobs and is a business opportunity. On this slide, I would like to present you some things that are in behind the thinking of this Swiss Ghanaian proposal, at least when we look at some reactions. So it is very, very important to know that the proposal has nothing to do with the discussion for differing between whether something is a waste or not a waste. The definition for making this decision and this distinction is laid down in the convention itself, in Article 2 of the convention. It must also clearly be stated that with the amendment proposal, nothing changes whether an e-waste is characterized as hazardous or non-hazardous. The definition whether something is hazardous or not hazardous is also laid down in the convention itself. And finally, there are ongoing discussions about the PIC procedure. Often the PIC procedure is being seen as cumbrous or badly implemented. Here, I would also like to clearly state that the amendment proposal has nothing to do with the PIC procedure, the process or the implementation of this procedure, because the PIC procedure is the same for each individual waste stream. And if there's the need for improvements, these must be handled in the overall context. So the purpose of the amendment proposal is solely making transboundary movements of e-waste subject to notification and the PIC procedure. And this regardless whether it is characterized as hazardous or not. And certainly, we are fully conscious that there remain points in the e-waste discussion that needs further discussions and solutions. And main points of them are still the waste, non-waste discussion. An important point is certainly also the finalization and the final adoption of the e-waste guideline of the Basel Convention, and that we have to look at the PIC procedure and its implementation. So our proposal is to be seen as a one contribution to the whole e-waste discussion, and we look at it as a further step in our whole process in the e-waste discussion. During the, I would say, consultation procedure, we received a lot of questions, which I tried to group a little bit. And what I would like is to give some first answers or clarifications concerning these questions. And the explanations I will give you in the following slides is, of course, our interpretation concerning the proposed wording of the two waste entries. That's how we thought it when we developed this amendment proposal. So one question that we received quite a lot is the question, what is the difference between electrical and electronic equipment? And I really did quite some work in trying to find it out. And if you go to literature, if you make your research, you will see there's absolutely no international definition or even a globally agreed definition making a difference between electrical and electronic equipment. And today, almost all devices contain at least one electronic component, for instance, a capacitor. So looking back at it, the differentiation is historical. Although in many laws, if you look at them, both are mentioned, but you will never see either a definition or a classification or a clarification what is meant. Probably the words were taken to really include all electrical and electronic equipment. So what we did is, with this amendment proposal, on purpose, we included again waste electrical and electronic equipment, and thought it's no sense to start there any discussions about making a differentiation or not of it. If we have both words, something is clear, everything would be captured. Another questions that we received quite frequently was when would pieces of e-waste cease to be captured by the potential new entry Y49 in Annex II and would be categorized as materials such as metals, plastics, glass, or ceramic. There were a lot of questions. What is a fraction? What is a material? What is a component? And so on. So our interpretation is that individually recovered clean monofractions of materials from e-waste, for instance, metal, plastics, ceramic, or glass, would not be anymore classified as e-waste. If such a fraction is still classified as a waste, it is necessary to check if this waste is falling under the Basel Convention, if there is an entry on a list of the Basel Convention. But mixed fractions deriving from a treatment of e-waste would still be falling under the entry Y49 and, if hazardous, 1180. Exceptions is if such a mixed fraction is falling under another waste entry listed in the Basel Convention. For instance, with a new classification of plastics, it could be a mixed plastic fraction. Another question was concerning the components. So the question was components which are dismantled from e-waste and which are not fully functional, would they remain being classified as e-waste or not? Yes, they would. And then on the other side, if components which are dismantled from used electrical and electronic equipment or a waste electronic and equipment, and which are fully functional and which would be destined for direct reuse, they would be classified as a second-hand product. As an example, we could take a fully functional hard disk. Such components would not fall under either entry for e-waste that we have in the Basel Convention. Finally, we had also questions why we didn't include cables in our proposal. So there are different reasons. The Basel Convention already covers waste cables with 2 entries, either characterized as hazardous or as non-hazardous. And we on purpose did not include waste cables. So looking at all the implementation that we found in other countries, our own national implementations, there are even discussions, and it is unclear whether waste cables are belonging to e-waste or are simply cables and should be treated separately. We already have 2 entries for cables. That was another reason. And 1 entry even specifies that open burning is not allowed, and it's looked at as unsound management. So for an inclusion of waste cables not characterized as hazardous, and an additional new Y entry would be probably the better solution or more reasonable. But definitely the current proposal does not include cables. And finally, there was a question, well, but what exactly do you want to capture with the new entry Y49? Well, if you look at the wording, they are written exactly as mirror wording. So you have the definition of what exactly is included. It's the concept of the amendment proposal itself. Either it is hazardous or it is not hazardous. And if not hazardous, it would fall under the new proposed entry Y49. Maybe developing a dynamic guidance tool listing concrete e-waste with its classification as hazardous or not could be helpful. But certainly this must be dynamic guidance that would be worked out. But such lists may facilitate the implementation and the enforcement. Finally, the last question that I have picked up for this presentation was, does the amendment proposal classify not fully functional EEE as a waste? So once to repeat and to make it clear again, the wordings of the proposed e-waste entries, they do not intend, and they are also not intended to be the basis for making the decision whether something is a waste or not. And I think this is valid for all waste entries on Annexes II, VIII, and IX of the Convention. Certainly, if somebody has to take the decision, the legal basis is in the Basel Convention itself, in Article 2 of the Convention. So there it is clearly written down that waste are substances which are disposed of or are intended to be disposed of. So what we already have in hand today is at least the ad interim adopted species guideline on e-waste. This assists in taking the waste on waste decision. And it's certainly up to all us parties to further elaborate and review the conditions set out in the e-waste guidelines. Coming to the end of our presentation, I would like to show you the next steps we intend to do. Certainly, we will continue to disseminate and explain our amendment proposal. So questions are all welcome. These questions also helps us to clarify and to become a clear picture, to give it further to all the others that are involved in the discussion. We are still collecting comments. We hope to broaden support, of course, and further discussions and possible adoption of the amendment proposal will be at the face-to-face segments of the Conference of Parties of the Basel Convention, which is scheduled to take place in June 22. So with this, I would like to give back the word to Sam and Michel to the discussion part of our webinar. On the slide, you see the contact persons which you can contact always if you have any further questions. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you very much, Isabel and Marco. So my colleague Michelle is also on the screen now. All four of us, yes. So we would like to, at this stage, open the floor for questions. I think we have the hand icon, also have the chat box. So the secretariat will help us perhaps to know which hands are raised and which information in the chat box so that we can tackle them accordingly. So Marco, sorry, Michelle, you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Sam. I just also want to thank Isabelle Baudin, Senior Scientific Expert from Switzerland, and Marco Bulletti, Senior Policy Advisor, to go through the proposal and explaining the proposal. It was also interesting to get the information so clearly on how the proposal is much interlinked with the work of the expert working group on the review of annexes. And I think it was also very good for the discussion now that you also already shared the important points and questions that we have gotten over the past month on the proposal. In fact, I would say we have had many good discussions with interested stakeholders, including governments that have contacted us, companies, associations, NGOs, IGOs. We've also discussed with scientists. So we've had rich discussions, and it's good that you have summarized some of those points that we did some further thinking on, perhaps also because they were raised by several. So I just wanted to express my thanks and happy to hear the discussion now, comments and questions that participants may have now, and happy to hand over to you, Sam, if you would like to perhaps take those questions and as you know, more on the technical side, Marco and Isabel are happy to respond also. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I think Joanne Edman and perhaps Emily from the Secretariat are in the meeting, so where I don't see a hand raised or chat, they can help us with the reading as well. For now, I don't see any hands there. Perhaps let me reiterate that the floor is open for your comments, your ideas, your questions, and for clarification and whatever, so that we can enrich our proposal, so that it can be taken on board. Yes. So maybe let me ask my own question for Marco and Isabel. So the forthcoming Basel Convention Open and Working Group in Nairobi, I think to 5th or to 6th of April or so, will this proposal be discussed there together with the expert group meeting on the 14th? I think next week, Monday, yes. So that's a question.
Maybe
Marco?
Michel, you have to take this question because Michel's more involved in the concrete organization of the work. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I understand from the Secretariat and also the OEWG Bureau that the preparation for the meeting is well underway, and that the meeting is planned to take place in Nairobi in April, and that the invitations were sent. With regards to the meeting agenda, I think this is to follow quite soon, and we don't have it yet. I'm also happy if, for the Secretariat to intervene and complement this information should there be any updates to give. And I just want to add that, of course, it is the meeting is a good opportunity to prepare for the COP. As it has been due to the pandemic, things had to be rescheduled several times and are done a bit differently, and everyone involved is doing the best to make these meetings useful and successful. And I just again want to say, because it's so close to the COP, it's a good opportunity to have exchanges for sure on the amendment proposal. We should not limit ourselves to that meeting. We are, as said, always open to discuss points and questions, but the meeting would also be an opportunity, and in particular, of course, as explained by Marco, this close link to the e-waste entries within the review of Annex's work done by the expert working group is a strong link, and therefore we would expect that there can be some discussion around those links at the open-ended working group. So thanks for that question, and again, if there's additional information available, I'm also happy for the BRS colleagues to intervene. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michel. Any additional point from the Secretariat? Hello?
Hi, Sam. We have a comment. It's not actually a question in the chat, just in case. I believe it is regarding the difference between the electrical items and the electronic items. We have a comment from Vivienne, and she said, informally, electrical items typically have a plug, and electronic items are usually devices of some kind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joan. Yes, so I was also asking whether the Secretariat has something to add on to what Michel has said concerning the OEWG.
I believe Juliet will be there, but also we have a question from European Union after Juliet. Thank you.
Okay, so Juliet, hello, good afternoon.
Hi, hello, Sam and Michel. I'm sorry, Michel, would you mind repeating your comments or questions?
Yes. I asked that question.
Yes.
That we know the EWG is coming on next week, perhaps on the 14th, yes. And then the OEWG in April in Nairobi. So the question was whether our amendments will be discussed at the OEWG in Nairobi come April this year before the COP.
Thank you, sir. So what will be discussed at the OEWG face-to-face segments will be based on the agenda for the meeting that was adopted during the online segment of the meeting, back more than a year ago. And the Bureau is now consulting on a list of prioritized agenda items that could be considered during the face-to-face segment. And by prioritize agenda items. The idea is to try to do some work in advance of the COPs that would benefit then discussion at the time of the COP. But the agenda, what could be prioritized as agenda items is what was already part of the agenda, if you wish, and is framed by the work program of the OEWG. And in terms of review of annexes, legal clarity, the scope is limited to the recommendations that stem from the EWG on the review of annexes, but not the amendment proposals that have been put forward directly for COP consideration. And we hope to have a bureau outcome in the next 2 weeks on this matter. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that also input and clarification as well. So back to Joanne. He said the EU has a question. I can see a raised hand there. So if the colleague from EU can take it up.
Yes. Good afternoon to all. It's Jorge from the European Commission. Hi Sam, hi Marco, Michelle, Isabel. Thank you for the interesting presentation. As you know, we are already some time longer looking into this proposal. Very interested in this proposal and actually looking at it with quite a positive eye, so to say. On this question, what to discuss relating to e-waste during the open-end working group, and I think that's what Juliette also alluded to. The open-end working group has an agenda, as a mandate, and the proposal to amend the annexes, the Annex II, as regards e-waste is not part of it, we believe. So the proposal itself cannot be discussed at the open-end working group, whereas we think, and that has been the case in the expert working group meeting of the 13th of January. The current entries, the wording of the current entries and how to improve them. We had some fruitful discussions in January, and yeah, we believe discussing that further during open-end working group could be or would be very helpful. Also, in light of what we will have to discuss at COP regarding this proposal. So we believe that could be something that open-end working group looks into, as the issues are quite related. So all of the substance will be discussed, I'm sure, but formally we cannot discuss the proposal itself at open-end working group. That's at least our reading. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's helpful. So at least once some kind of discussion that go on may contribute to perhaps defining or maybe better clarifying our proposal. That would be also welcome. Thank you, colleague from EU. I'm not seeing any other hand for now. Joanne, is there anything in the chat box again?
None. We don't have any raised hand and nothing new in the chat. Okay,
thank you. We still have some more time, so we just want to encourage the colleagues to speak up, and then perhaps you can have a good rapport here. I see Marco, your hand is up.
Thank you, Sam. I only wanted to add some words concerning cables. We heard that there are some ideas. Well, what is a cable? When is it included or not? I think the difficulty with the cables is that usually when speaking about electronic and electronic equipment, we are speaking about a plug-in cable. If there's a transformer or something like this included in this cable, it's quite clear then it would be an electronic device. But if you, for instance, only look at an extension cable, well, is this now an e-waste or not? Or is it an electrical or electronic product or not? That's difficult. Other issues are also the cables that you have in the earth for connection of electricity or whatever. Is this now also an e-waste or not, or belonging to it? And that's why that's also additional reasonings why we didn't include this in the proposal. The only thing that is is quite clear for us. If it's a device, it's quite clear, then it's contained in the electrical and electronic equipment or in e-waste. But there are really cases where you can start long discussions, and that's why we wanted to avoid, let's say, unnecessary discussions on extension cables or something like this, and just really wanted to focus on electrical and electronic equipments and goods, and then finally waste. So that was only an addition, the difficulty we see with the cables. So that was only an addition. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marco. Yes, that's quite helpful. I'm not seeing any hand, nor any in the chat box, but we are still open. I think we are supposed to end at 3:30, 4:30 Geneva time. So we have some time more. So please speak up. Whilst we are not speaking up, maybe let me, for some memories or whatever, maybe way forward, ask Juliet again concerning our proposal at the COP15 in Geneva in June. So what happens after, what happens in Geneva when our proposal is put forward there? Can you just perhaps help understand, what we expect to see in Geneva, Juliet?
Sure. So we have the amendment proposal has been put forward in a working document, meaning it's available in the 6 languages as a working document, and we've also provided or will provide the explanatory notes and other supporting materials and access to all the comments that have been submitted by parties and observers on the amendment proposal. So there's a whole package of information that will be for the COP. The working document, in terms of proposed action, it provides that the amendment proposal is for consideration and then possible adoption. So the COP will consider whether to adopt the amendment during COP15. And we have precedents where a proposal to amend the convention or an annex was adopted on the spot, if I wish, at the same meeting. But if this is not possible in the time frame, the COP can decide on possible next steps to continue, consideration of the amendment proposal in one setting or another. So that will be up to the COP to decide how to proceed in the event adoption does not take place at COP in June.
So yes, thank you so much. Also helpful. Let me go back to my colleague Michelle. Michelle, anything to also, say for an end there?
Yes, thank you, Sam, and thanks, Juliette, for this information. Just a follow-up question to that. In the documents that are provided for the COP, there is also a document with the comments that were submitted by parties. Is that correct? Thanks in advance.
So the question is to Juliet.
Yes, I have to honestly check if we provide them in the info or if we provide them through a link to our website. Just now, I would have to go back and check the document. Sorry about that. I don't remember by heart. I'm doing that right now. Because now on the website, you have all the comments, right, that are posted. And sometimes we don't always put everything in the info document just because of the sheer volume it means in terms of processing of documents. So the working document is 13 at 2. Then the explanatory note is in Inf 22. Yes, and all the comments will be set out in document Inf 23. Yes, so you will have everything at hand in meeting documents. Yes, and not only on the website. What we do is that we put the comments from parties only in the Inf document, but not the comments that were submitted by observers. Those are only on the website. The reason is that formally, only parties are asked to provide, invited to provide comments on amendment proposal, but we usually receive some from observers. And for those comments from observers, they are on the website and cross-reference meeting document.
Michelle, are you okay?
Yes, thanks very much, Juliette. And sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot like this with too detailed questions, but it's useful to know that you know, all the comments that were sent to us, the Secretariat and the proponents so far in written can be you know, are in a transparent way to be found on the website for those who want to see what points were raised and discussed. So that's very helpful to know. Thanks again.
Okay. Yes, we still have some time. Maybe if colleagues are not asking questions, I will take opportunity maybe to still go back to Secretariat for some understanding as well. So Juliet, I'll come back to you. Before the COP, do we still have an opportunity, even though we have had some webinars for the various UN regions, say the physical meetings that will take place face-to-face, say the OEWG and even the regional meetings, is it possible as well for us to hold some kind of side events, maybe including the COP itself? I mean, is it possible?
Yes, so we are planning indeed for side events to be able to be held both during the face-to-face segment of OEWG, so in Nairobi, and of course during the COPs. So we are, I mean, the invitations of interest to be communicated for side events will be transmitted to all. So side events will be possible during both times. And for the regional prep meetings, as you know, the agenda usually covers everything that goes to COPs, but it's the 3 COPs, right? So the agenda is a bit more full for regional prep meetings because it's Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm. And whether there's more time allocated to one agenda item as opposed to others is for the region to decide. What is discussed and to what length is up to each region to decide. So as for you, for the African region, you would have probably a say, right? How the scheduling would be organized for the regional prep meetings for Africa, which will be back to OEWG 12 in Nairobi.
Great. Okay. So let me check again from Joanne. Any information in the chat box or any hand that I've not seen? Joanne?
None so far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let me go back to Isabel and Marco, and of course, Michelle. Anything to say again from your end?
Well, only from my side, Sam, I would like to thank all the parties and associations that have written comments during the consultation procedure, which was very, very helpful for us. And please, if anybody has additional questions, that they just directly contact us, either you or Michelle or Isabel or me, so that we can follow up and, if necessary, improve the amendment proposal of Ghana and Switzerland. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Isabel, any final comments from you?
Not especially, but yes, I can also thank everybody for participating to this webinar. And as Marco said, and Michel said, and Sam said, we are very happy to have comments and questions, and that we can answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Michel, your final take.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. I just want to thank everyone for this webinar and for the participation, and also the Secretariat for having helped us, and also for responding to questions. That's very useful, and I thank you, Sam, for your commitment and also for helping to chair this session. I would just underline again that we've had very good discussions with many involved. I think this seminar here concludes a series of webinars in all the regions, and this is after we've had written comments and informal exchanges. So really, over quite a long period of time now, we are able to be in touch with many stakeholders that are interested and relate to this amendment proposal. And I encourage everyone to nevertheless still approach us with comments and questions in the next weeks. We believe the COP will be a good moment to make an important step with regard to the global e-waste challenge that we are facing by adopting this amendment proposal. As we have said in a transparent way, that we are aware this proposal does not solve all of the different elements of the complex e-waste challenge, but it does address a fundamental challenge that is there, where it is not clear where the e-waste ends up, and is it really treated in which places in a way in order to avoid negative effects on the environment and human health. And that this lack of information in a way and control is the first step to be addressed in order to find a solution to the complex challenge. So we really see this to be a realistic, necessary and feasible first step in addressing the challenge, and think that the upcoming COP is, in terms of timing, a great opportunity to do so, and therefore we would welcome your support, dear colleagues, and are looking forward to further preparing for the COPs. So with that, I thank everyone again, and I would leave it to you, Sam, to make your comments and do the closing. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michel. And dear colleagues, friends from around the world, those who managed to participate, we are so grateful for coming on board today. We are particularly grateful that today's session, to me, it's more or less a revised or refined version of our webinars, because this is more or less the last in the series for the 5 regions. And each time we have the seminar, we add 1 or 2 information or facts to it, especially when questions are being asked. We go back to the drawing board, we do some refinement, and then we present. So today we have added some new comments there where my colleagues Isabel and Marco addressed them appropriately. And I believe that if you have more comments, you can send them around as well, and then we can use the occasion to refine our proposal. Thank you, therefore, to also the Secretariat, who are always been with us, and then you have helped us a lot to get all this done. We believe that I will continue to work together with you until our proposal hopefully has gone through. And I'm particularly grateful to the EU colleague who made mention that indeed the EU has actually discussed our proposal tolerant, and then they are positive. It's good to hear that. I know the other regions are also making such comments, and we believe that we'll have, we'll make waves, we'll go to COP and then get our amendment through. So my colleagues, Michelle, Isabel, and Marco, I would like to also thank you on behalf of Ghana to you for Switzerland for agreeing to partner with us to push this amendment agenda forward. So on that note, I would like to say goodbye from Ghana here, which is have a very warm weather. I believe that those outside there, you're also equally enjoying your weather as well, whether cold or whatever. That is something that I think you all cherish. So goodbye for now, and then see you another time. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.